Welcome back to Mimi's Organic Eats. Today I'm going to show you guys how to brown butter. So there's just a few tips I want to share with you guys before we start browning the butter. The first is you guys can use brown butter in place of regular butter pretty much in any recipe, and it's going to add like a nutty, caramely, insanely delicious flavor to your recipe. So whether you're making waffles, pancakes, cookies, brownies, frosting, you can use brown butter for that. There are just two things that you have to remember whenever substituting brown butter for regular butter in a recipe. So the first one is you want to make sure you look for how much butter the recipe calls for. For example, if the recipe calls for 115 grams or half a cup of butter, that equals 1 stick of butter. You're going to actually need a little bit more butter than that because as the butter browns, it's going to reduce a little bit. So it's usually going to be about 20% more that you're going to need. So with that in mind, you also want to make sure that you weigh butter before using it in recipes. This way you know that you have exactly 113 grams or half a cup of butter in a recipe that calls for that much butter, whether it's brown butter or regular butter. And the second thing to remember is you want to make sure you look at what kind of butter the recipe calls for. For example, cookie recipes may call for softened butter, or brownie recipes may call for melted butter, and pie crust recipes may call for chilled butter. So whenever substituting brown butter for regular butter, you need to make sure that the butter consistency is exactly the same as what the recipe calls for. So while browning the butter is the process of melting butter, you may need to then wait for that butter to soften or even chill completely in the fridge before beginning your recipe. So now that you know all the tips and tricks for using brown butter in recipes, let me show you guys how to make it. So we're gonna add 113 grams or 1 stick of butter to a small pot. So depending on what recipe you guys are using brown butter in, you can always add more butter to your pot. Just make sure you have a big enough pot. Now we're gonna put this over medium heat. Another tip for browning butter is to use a light colored pot. This will ensure that you can see the butter change color so you don't burn it. Once the butter is melted, stir with a spatula frequently to ensure even heating. The butter may begin to bubble, foam, or turn white. That's okay if it does this, just ensure you are stirring so you can see the color of the butter below the foam. If you're having trouble seeing, remove the pot from the heat for a moment, check the color, and put it back on if needed. As the butter cooks, it will begin to turn from a bright yellow color to a light golden to a tan color. You will start to see small brown specks appear. These are the toasted milk solids and they will sink to the bottom. As soon as this happens, then it's ready. Remove it from the heat immediately as it can burn easily. You don't want to leave brown butter unattended, so make sure to watch and stand over it the entire time as the process from melted butter to brown can be pretty quick. The whole process will take less than 10 minutes. So once your brown butter is done, then it's ready to use in any recipe that calls for melted butter. If your recipe calls for softened butter, you can let it just chill out on the countertop and let it soften and come to room temperature. And if your recipe calls for chilled butter, you want to stick it in the fridge until it is chilled completely. My top trick for chilling brown butter, like I do for my brown butter pie crust, is to line a Tupperware with parchment paper. Then pour the brown butter into the parchment paper. That way, when it's chilled, you can easily just lift the parchment paper out of the Tupperware and you can chop it up and it's ready for pie crust. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and leave a comment below. And if you want more easy baking tutorials just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join me next time in the kitchen. Now I'm off to make brown butter butterscotch sauce.